Moses,
the deliverer of Israel. In ancient Egypt, when Pharaoh ordered the death of all Hebrew sons, one mother set her infant adrift on the Nile in a basket of reeds. Found by Pharaoh's daughter, this child would become Moses, raised in the palace of Egypt's greatest empire. Years later, after fleeing Egypt, Moses encountered God in a burning bush. Commanded to free his people, he returned to challenge Pharaoh. Through divine intervention and 10 devastating plagues, Moses led the exodus of the Israelites from bondage. At Mount Sinai, Moses ascended into clouds of thunder and lightning. There, he received the 10 Commandments, sacred laws carved in stone by the finger of God. For 40 years, he guided his people through the wilderness, and there, atop Mount Nebo, having glimpsed the promised land but never to enter it, Moses, the great liberator and lawgiver, completed his earthly journey at the age of 120 years.
the birth of Moses.
In the 320th year, about year 1530 BC, of the Israelites' captivity in the land of Egypt, a child was born to Amram and Jochebed of the tribe of Levi. When Jochebed saw that her child was beautiful and extravagant, she hid him 3 months from her Egyptian captors. Why would she have to hide her newborn son? In the days of her child's birth, a Pharaoh rose up in Egypt who feared that the Hebrew slaves were growing too great in numbers. It may have been that in the year 1530 BC, when Moses was born, that the Hebrews' population was in close number to their Egyptian keepers, and Pharaoh feared an uprising. So, Pharaoh summoned the Hebrew midwives to him and said this in Exodus 1:16. When you do your duties of a midwife for the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter, then she shall live. Needless to say, Pharaoh's command to the Hebrew midwives was not implemented by these daughters of Abraham, for they feared God more than Pharaoh, their keeper. Once Pharaoh realized the midwives were unsuccessful in fulfilling his command, he ordered Egyptian people to kill the newborn sons of Israel who were born into their households.
So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive." When the child was 3 months old, Jochebed constructed an ark of bulrushes and sealed it with asphalt and pitch. She placed the child in it and placed the ark among the reeds of the Nile River. Miriam, Moses' older sister, stayed by the river to watch what would become of her brother. It just so happened that on that day Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to bathe. While she bathed in the river, she saw the ark and summoned her maid to retrieve the ark from the river. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children."
Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? Go.
So Miriam ran right back to Jochebed, her mother, and brought her to the princess. Pharaoh's daughter unwittingly placed the child back into his mother's arms to nurse him. Jochebed not only got to mother her infant child, but also received from Pharaoh's daughter wages for her nursing. Once the child was weaned, at about the age of 2 or 3, he was brought to Pharaoh's daughter. She became as a mother to him, naming him Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the waters."
Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh's daughter and was educated in all the knowledge of the Egyptians. This allowed him to become a well-educated man in Egyptian mathematics and writings, hieroglyphics, and Egyptian texts. It is recorded that at the age of 40 years old, Moses came out to his people and saw an Egyptian beating one of his Hebrew brethren. Seeing no one, that is, a witness, Moses killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. The second time Moses came out to his people, he saw 2 of his brethren fighting. He said to the one who seemed to be in the wrong, "Why are you striking your companion?" Then the man said, "Who made you a prince and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian." So Moses was afraid and said, "Surely this is known." Moses, fearing Pharaoh's judgment of death for killing an Egyptian, fled from Egypt to the land of Midian. There he met Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. Moses married Zipporah, and she bore him 2 sons, Gershom and Eliezer. Moses was 40 years in the desert, tending the flocks of his father-in-law Jethro. One day, as he was tending Jethro's flock in Horeb, by the mountain of God, Moses' heart was moved, and he went up to the mountain top. There he came across a bush that was aflame with fire, but was not being consumed. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Moreover, he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God.
The Lord spoke to Moses, having seen the oppression of his people under Egyptian bondage. He would send Moses to deliver them by his mighty hand.
But what shall I say to the children of Israel? If they ask who sent me, what is his name?
God said to Moses, "I am who I am." He commanded, "Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me."
O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue.
The Lord replied, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say." And the Lord appointed Aaron, Moses' brother, as his spokesman.
Moses returns to Egypt.
As Moses traveled to Egypt with his wife Zipporah and his 2 sons, the Lord went to Aaron and told him to go out into the wilderness to meet his brother Moses. Moses and Aaron greeted each other with a kiss and then headed back for Egypt to the house of Pharaoh. Many historians believe that Ramses II was Pharaoh of Egypt when Moses led the Israelites out of their captivity. However, it is historical record that Ramses II reigned between the years of 1279 to 1213 BC. This date does not correspond with the biblical record. According to the Bible, the Exodus occurred about the date of 1450 BC, in the 80th year of Moses' life. If man's historical record is correct concerning the reigns of the Egyptian pharaohs of antiquity, it would have had to have been the Pharaoh Thutmose III. His is recorded as ruling from 1479 to 1426 BC, who was ruler of Egypt at the time of the Exodus. So Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh as the Lord had instructed them, and said, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." And Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go."
Pharaoh spoke roughly to Moses and Aaron when they were in his presence, and Pharaoh's heart began to harden that day against the Hebrew people. On that same day, he commanded to his taskmasters that they should no longer give straw to the Hebrews to make their bricks. The straw was what bound the baked clay bricks together, as the Israelites tamped the straw into the clay with their feet, and without it, the bricks would quickly crumble as they fatigued. This meant that the Israelites would now have to go and gather their own straw for the bricks, doubling their workload. Once the Hebrews heard what Pharaoh had commissioned them concerning their daily quota of bricks and the lack of straw to produce them, they went murmuring to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Let the Lord look on you and judge, because you have made us abhorrent in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, to put the sword in their hand to kill us." After hearing these murmurings, Moses went 3 days out of Egypt and sacrificed to the Lord. The Lord again told Moses to go back to his people, to let them know that the time had come for them to be taken out of Egypt by God's mighty hand. Moses' next encounter with Pharaoh will be the most remembered through all of the historical records of the Bible. When Aaron cast down the rod of Moses at the feet of Pharaoh, it transformed into a snake. Then Pharaoh commanded his magicians to do the same. As they cast their rods to the ground, turning them into snakes, Aaron's rod swallowed up the other rods, and Pharaoh's heart grew hard, and he did not heed them, as the Lord said. It is the Lord who keeps hardening the Pharaoh's heart, so he, the Lord, can keep doing his great works in Egypt. Therefore he has mercy on whom he wills, and whom he wills he hardens. He has the ability to harden and soften the hearts of men, and does this thing to fulfill his purpose.
The 10 plagues of Egypt.
Moses and Aaron would come before Pharaoh many more times, and with many plagues before Pharaoh would relent to the will of their God. First, water of the Nile River turns to blood. Second, frogs come upon the land. Third, lice afflict man and beast. Fourth, flies come upon the Egyptians. Fifth, disease comes upon the livestock. Sixth, boils break out on both man and beast. Seventh, hail and fire. Eighth, locusts devour crops and trees. Ninth, darkness upon the land of Egypt. 10th, death to Egypt's firstborn. The 10th and final plague crushed Pharaoh and his people by taking the lives of their firstborn children. Even Pharaoh's son, who sat on his throne, was taken from him.
The Exodus.
Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, "Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve your God as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herbs as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also." The Lord had given his people favor in the eyes of their former captors. Whatever the Israelites asked of the Egyptians, whether it be silver, gold, or articles of clothing, it was given to them. As Moses led the 12 tribes of Israel out of Egypt, the Lord went before them in a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire by night to give them light. And it was as they were in the wilderness that the pillar of God led the Israelites to the edge of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel camped against the banks. The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again against the Hebrew people, and Pharaoh set out with 600 chariots and pursued the Israelites as far as the Red Sea. When the Israelites saw the chariots of the Pharaoh, they began to murmur and cry out in terror to Moses. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward, but lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea." So the Lord caused the waters of the sea to divide, and Moses and the Israelites passed through the midst of the sea on dry land. As the Egyptians pursued the Israelites through the divided waters, Moses lifted up his hand and passed it over the sea. The waters returned, drowning the Egyptians. This was the Lord's final battle with Pharaoh regarding the Israelites' flight from Egypt.
The 10 Commandments.
After 3 months of journey through the desert, the Israelites reached Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. Here, Moses would receive the 10 Commandments, tablets of stone written by the finger of God himself.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's.
As Moses remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, the people grew restless, fearing their leader was dead. They turned to Aaron, who fashioned their gold into a golden calf, an idol, to lead them back to Egypt. When Moses discovered their unfaithfulness, he came down from the mountain in righteous anger. He smashed the sacred tablets before the people. Taking the golden calf, he ground it to powder and made the people drink it with water. Yet God's mercy prevailed. The tablets were restored, and the journey to the Promised Land continued.
The Ark of Testimony.
In ancient times, a sacred chest was crafted according to divine specifications. The Ark of the Covenant, as it was known, was made from acacia wood, measuring 2.5 cubits in length and 1.5 cubits in both width and height. Pure gold covered it inside and out, with a golden crown molding adorning its edges. 4 golden rings were cast and placed at its corners, 2 on each side. Through these rings, the Israelites inserted poles of acacia wood, also overlaid with gold, allowing them to carry the ark without touching it directly. These poles were to remain in place permanently. Atop the ark sat the mercy seat, crafted of pure gold, with 2 cherubim hammered from the same piece. These angelic figures faced one another, their wings stretched upward, creating a space where the divine presence would manifest. As the Israelites journeyed through the Sinai wilderness, they constructed a special tabernacle of animal skins to house this sacred vessel.
Moses sends spies into the land of Canaan. A time came when Moses commissioned spies to go into the land of Canaan and bring back news of its inhabitants, that they may go up and take the land from them. But when the spies returned to the people after 40 days in Canaan, they brought back reports of mighty walled cities and peoples, even of giants who possessed the land. These reports scared the Israelites, and again they murmured against the Lord and were too afraid to go up into Canaan. Again the people rejected God's word, and the Lord became angry with the people. Moses went before God to intercede for the people. The Lord rejected that evil generation that walked out of Egypt by his mighty hand. Except for Joshua, the son of Jephunneh, that generation would not enter the promised land, but instead fall in the desert for 40 years until they were no more. Numbers 14, 32-33. But as for you, your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and your sons shall be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years, and bear brunt of your infidelity, until your carcasses are consumed in the wilderness.
Moses taken by God.
I can no longer go out and come in. Also the Lord has said to me, You shall not cross over this Jordan. Be strong and of good courage, for you, Joshua, must go with this people to the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, He is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed.
The Lord took Moses up to the top of Mount Nebo and showed him all the land across the Jordan, which his children Israel would inherit. Then Moses was no more, and the Lord hid his body on Mount Nebo in an unmarked grave. He was 120 at the time of his death. His death and the crossing of the Jordan into the Promised Land by Joshua and the Israelites both occurred about the year 1410 BC. Joshua's first conquest in the land of Canaan is still his most memorable because the Lord had caused the walls of the city of Jericho to fall in the presence of Israel, and their fame went all through the land of Canaan. Joshua conquered 31 kings in all in the land of Canaan, and he divided all the conquered lands between the 12 tribes of Israel. He died at the age of 110 years old. After Joshua had died, new saviors would rise from the people and lead the Israelites until the time of the kings. These who rose between the death of Joshua and the time of Israel's first king, Saul, were called judges. The judges spanned nearly 4 centuries, from about the 14th century BC to the 11th century BC. Included among the many judges of Israel, and maybe one of the most famous of all the characters of the Bible, is Samson. Before I close this chapter, I would like to exhort all you readers to take time in these next months to study these first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, from Genesis to Deuteronomy. The stories of Israel's sufferings and shortcomings can only be truly experienced by the process of in-depth study. The intent of my writing it not to paint any type of picturesque portraits of the biblical record, but just to simply place its contents in their appropriate chronological order, according to the Lord's 15-day calendar of creation.